Today, we're joined by Caren Hartley, award-winning frame builder who creates beautiful bespoke bikes from her workshop in South London. Caren started her frame building career under the moniker Hartley Cycles, which was the culmination of over 10 years of fine metalwork and a love affair with cycling. Her latest project, ISEN, is a collaboration with Talbot Frameworks and combines handcrafted elements with cutting-edge frame building technologies, delivering bikes that are at the forefront of frame geometries. Caren is passionate about making bikes for both men and women that are equal in beauty and performance, and most importantly, perfectly fitted to the rider. So to find out more about Caren's serious passion for bike building and the joys and challenges of running a UK business, I'll hand you over to David Taylor and Toby Fox of Velocity magazine.
Oh, I did a horn press inadvertently. Sorry about that. So hello, I'm David Taylor from Velocity magazine, and as Nick just said, I'm joined by Toby and of course Caren from ISEN. We're going to chat for about half an hour. There's going to be some slides in the meantime that we can talk to, and Caren's going to do a little walk around the workshop as well, whilst we ask her probing and searingly interesting questions. And then we're going to have a quick fire round as well, indicated by the Horn of Plenty. So Caren, can I just ask you firstly, you're trained as a jeweler, I think. Can you describe the journey from that to what you do now? And also, presumably there's sort of crossover elements to that in terms of the crafting that you do with these beautiful bikes.
Yeah, so straight out of school, I did an art foundation, and I sort of fell in love with metalwork on that. So then I went to university to study jewellery and metalwork, and that was really broad. So it was everything from tiny sort of goldsmithing, like really fine metalwork, right through to blacksmithing and everything in between. And then after college, I was working mostly as a jeweler to kind of pay the bills, but also working on sculpture and sort of more conceptual metalwork as well that didn't pay so well, but that was sort of like my love. And then probably about 10 years into that, I think I just had enough of being in the art world essentially, and wanted to do something that was a bit more, I guess like useful sounds like horrible to art, because art is sort of useful, but I think I just wanted to use my skills to make things. Sorry, it's really noisy here.
Just to explain, that's not our turbo trainers that are really rusty. That's some hammering going on in the background.
Yeah, I wanted to use my skills and carry on making, but make something that people actually used and people kind of interact with on a daily basis. Because a lot of the time with artworks, sort of best case scenario would be a person or a collector might buy a piece and then they put it either away or on the wall or on a shelf or something like that. So that kind of, I don't know, made me a bit discouraged with making. So I guess deciding to make custom bikes it was quite a pragmatic thing. I think it was something that I was like, right, I've got a lot of crossover skills here that I can use to make a bike shape object. It's made out of metal. It means I can continue making. I like cycling. I enjoy being in that industry, and people will use it. And so it's an object that doesn't just sit there. People enjoy using it. They build a relationship with it. It's like quite an important object to a lot of people. So I guess that was sort of.
And so, how did you make the leap to actually opening where you are now in Mitcham?
So the first sort of I probably took about a year or more deciding if this was what I wanted to do, because I trained for 7 years and then I'd been working in the industry for another 7 or so, and I was just like, okay, am I going to sort of throw it all away and decide to do something completely different? So it took a while to decide, and then during that time I was working for other frame builders, and generally just trying to find out as much as I could and work out what of the skills I had already were transferable and what skills I still needed and how I would acquire those without having to spend thousands of pounds on training. So I kind of did a bit of skills exchange with other builders because I had a lot of metalwork skills they didn't necessarily have, and they had like more specific bike building skills that I didn't have. So I was sort of like, can I work for you and learn some stuff essentially? So that was how I started, and then I just kind of jumped in and started Hartley Cycles, which was the first brand I started, which is based on my name. And then from there, I met another frame builder, Matt McDonough, and he had a brand called Talbot Frameworks, and we became friends. And then what started as a really just like a small conversation about how we wanted to make some kind of slightly more off the peg bikes alongside our own brand, sort of became ISEN Workshop, which is now the main thing that both of us do. So it's just sort of like a silly conversation in the pub to start with, and then now it's like, yeah, it's our main business.
And do you just work in steel? Is it just the one material you work in?
No, so we started in steel and also stainless, which is very similar, a very similar making process. But in the last couple of years, we've started building in titanium also, which has been, it's really taken off. So that's been like really successful.
And how are materials? How is it getting hold of materials at the moment, given presumably massive demand for bikes?
Yeah, so it has been more challenging for sure. We're kind of lucky that we're working at this scale that we can buy maybe like 6 months of materials at a time, and we have a reasonable idea of what we might sell in that period. So so that's been sort of okay so far, but now some of our suppliers are giving us sort of 12-month lead time on materials and components. So we're sort of like having to plan much further in ahead than we used to, because I mean, like most manufacturing industries, we used to work on a kind of just-in-time model, and now we're having to plan 12 months in advance. So yeah, it's a bit more challenging. It's workable, but more challenging for sure.
Sure.
How many are you able to make in over a given period of time, and what are you ordering over that sort of 6-month period?
So we're probably making at the moment about 60 plus bikes a year, and then we might order I guess we've just done an order for forks direct from the factory, like carbon forks to go with the frame. So we've ordered like a lot of 50 at a time of one model. So that would be that. Other things we'll order more in smaller quantities. And then tubes, a lot of we use like a different tube selection for each build, and they'll change, but depending on the size of the bike, what the customer might need because of their height or their weight or their riding style. But there's some overlap, so we try and kind of order enough of things that have more of a multiple use, and then a few of the others, and just hope for the best that we've ordered the right selection, basically.
And how many people in the workshop does it take to build 60 bikes?
There's 4 of us. So we've got myself, I concentrate mostly on bike design and paint now. Matt, who was Talbot, he does mostly welding and then like sales emails and things like that. Robin is our production manager, so he's doing a lot of the sort of mitering, quality control, all of the sort of the cold metal work, and sort of doing we do a lot of custom bending. So for example, the chain stays, and also mountain bike, the seat tubes, down tubes. So he'll draw those out on CAD and then make templates for him to match in real life. And then we've got Fenella, who's in the office, and she sort of controls all the stock, makes sure everything's ready to build, like the box of tubes and parts for each customer ready to go, like ordering stuff, answering other emails. And shall we meet some of them and maybe see where all that sanding is being done? Yeah. Also, actually, the sanding is in the sculpture. We've got a sculptor in the workshop next door, so that's him. But I can show you.
Be interested to see him as well.
See what his noise is. Okay, so
Mitcham Makers.
Yeah, so this is the kind of paint area and where I spend most of my time. So this is kind of, I do like frame finishing, sort of smaller metalwork might happen here, which is
can I just ask about the paint actually? I mean, what is the process to a layman? How many coats do you spray? What
yeah, so it's all spray. So I'll go, actually, let's take you into the spray booth now.
Top up my tan.
Yeah.
So this is the spray booth. Yeah. Some guns somewhere. It's a bit awkward. Sorry, I don't know how to do this on the computer.
Right.
There we go.
See,
that's great.
And then so basically there's probably, I don't know, 9, 10 layers of paint, something like that. 2 primers, the base coat, which is all of the color and design, and there might be up to maybe 8, could be up to 8 coats of like different colors, different like masked layers, and then 3 clear coats on top. So it's quite an involved process. It's all wet paint, which sounds obvious because you think all paint's wet, but that's to sort of differentiate from either powder coat or enamel, basically. So it's all sprayed. We don't use any decals or stickers. It's all masked and then masking taken off. So all the designs and even intricate logos you see are all like in paint rather than anything else.
And have you ever been asked to do a particular color configuration which repels you?
Yes. I don't. So if I really don't think it's going to work, then I'll be generally quite honest with customers, because sometimes the way colors work in paint and the way they work in either ink or they might work in print, for example, or on a screen is totally different. So sometimes like the knowledge of the way like you can lay down color together with paint pigment sort of means that I can say, oh, actually that's really not going to work. Or yeah, I don't think I've ever had to be like, no, I'm absolutely not doing that. Because most of my...
We lost your sound.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, most customers are quite open to our designs and sort of willing to trust that because we've got more experience with like the process, that they'll get something that they like at the end if they give us a little bit of a freedom. So it's okay.
Is there anything else in the workshop that you'd like to show us?
Yeah, I'll take you to the main fabrication room as well. So it's a bit down the hall. We'll go swing past the sculptors, see what they're doing. So
they're sanding. We know what they're doing.
They're making these massive, big pillars for a film. Actually, there you go. See, say hi.
Oh.
And then this is our. Sorry. This is the hallway. Very interesting. Got
yeah, sandwich maker. Yeah.
Yeah, sandwich maker, very important. This is the fabrication.
Oh no.
Breaking up a bit. It must be the reception.
Yeah, I think we've lost the reception in the fabrication room.
Yeah,
Well, should we have a look at some pictures while we're waiting for Caren to come back? Because I've got some lovely images of the finished product.
Do you think we can, while she's gone, we can negotiate some sort of free bike, Toby?
I think every viewer should be sending us a message with their specifications right now, and we'll get them across to Caren. Look at that! Isn't that gorgeous?
It's beautiful. Ah, we lost you for a bit, but you're back. It must have been reception. But we can't hear you. We can't hear you. We haven't got to carry on looking at your gear.
We can't hear you, Caren.
You're on mute, I think.
Shall I unmute her?
Yeah.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, we've got you.
Okay,
Hooray.
sorry.
That's all right.
And we've got other milling machines.
How much does it cost to kit out the workshop, Caren? What's the investment?
It's best not to think about it, I think. But I don't know, maybe 50, 100,000. I don't really know. It's you do it over quite a long period of time, so.
And whilst we're talking Wonga,
yeah, quite a lot.
How much does it cost? What are your starting prices for
the bike?
Custom bike, yeah.
So frames start at about 2,500 for a frame set.
Okay. Would that be like this one here that we're showing now?
This one's a little bit more involved because it's got you can see the couplers. These are S&S couplers, which means that the frame can come apart into two pieces for traveling, and it's got some custom detail. His name's been hand carved.
Beautiful.
So I guess this one might be more like probably about 4,000.
Yeah.
And then with a full build start around 4 after 5, it can go up to probably like 16, something like this blue one pictured with full envy everything and electronic wireless gearing and things like that. But I mean, like a really nice build that something like that I would enjoy riding would come in perhaps like 6.5, 7.
You think you get pedals for that much?
We give you some pedals, yeah, great one, but we give you some.
No air in the tires though.
Yeah, that's extra.
bring your own air.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is it. We can see Fenella, but she hates being on camera, so. That's
lovely. I'm not sure about lightweight written like that. It's a sort of a commentary on one's riding standards. And what's the average clientele who's forking out all this money? What's your average person buying your bike? What do they do? Can you paint a picture? Is it regular?
So I mean, it can be someone that's sort of like, you know, like just like a totally normal rider that wants to commute to work on something a bit nicer than you know, like your off the peg bike. It can be, we get a lot of customers, smaller riders and women, I think partly because I'm a woman obviously, and I'm also quite small, so it like our small bikes are really well thought out for smaller riders, and if you're smaller, it can be quite hard to find a bike that fits you properly, and those considerations are taken into account. And then we get you know, bankers and sort of people that you might think would like normally like throw thousands of pounds at custom bikes, but it's a real mix. So it can be people that that are quite similar to myself, like just really like riding and want like a nice tool to do it on, or yeah, like all walks of life really.
Can you tell us about this image, Caren?
So this is Matt's welding mask. He really, really likes trains and Volvos. So it's been custom painted. Yeah, so Matt does most of the welding.
Wow.
What are we looking at there? That's a beauty.
Yeah, this is a titanium one. This is one of the first titanium ones that we built. It's an all season, which is a kind of do-it-all road bike. And it's this is kind of kitted out like with the best of the best everything on it, so like envy wheels, envy finishing kit, Chris King bearings, and we took this over to Chris King for their show a couple of years back. So yeah, this is
who was the owner of that one? Was that a banker? That looks like a banker kind of.
So I think he worked in finance and then sacked it off and now works in the bike trade actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he's like he's super interested in bikes. I think he was quite sensible and did finance first and then retired, which is probably like
the right way around.
The way to go if you're sensible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you noticing demand for? Are you sort of following demand for things like gravel bikes now? Have you noticed a demand for different kinds of bikes since you started?
Yeah, definitely. So when I started, the market was really mostly road bikes, and back then 28 mil on a tire was considered quite big. So that was kind of where the market was and what most people were riding. It was what I was riding at the time, mostly road riding, maybe like long distance Audaxes. And then over the last few years, tyres have got bigger, people have gone more off-road. I think a lot of people that used to be more road riding have moved into gravel. Some of those have moved into mountain biking. Like, you know, everything's got bigger and wider and more sort of gnarly, I think.
So while you were off screen briefly, when the internet connection failed, we promised all our viewers that you'd be providing a free bike to every viewer. And we've got some demand in. Mo Gory is going to send in her specifications for you.
Brilliant.
I did some reading about you, and I found this Evening Standard article which called you a female bikesmith, which I'd never come across before. Do you feel like a bikesmith? Is that what you call yourself?
I would probably just say a frame builder or a bike maker or something, but I get called all sorts.
do you cycle today still, or are you put off the roads at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, I commute every day. That's I don't own a car. Like, my main mode of transport is cycling. The riding I do for enjoyment now is mostly off-road and a bit more kind of bike packing, mountain bike, like cross-country mountain biking. I'm not sort of into downhill or trying to kill myself going really, really fast. But yeah, like kind of like cross-country touring, off-road touring, I guess, and it's probably my favorite thing at the moment.
Before you started making bikes yourself, who did you get bikes from? You know, what were your favorite bikes?
So my favorite, my first kind of like really posh bike that I was like, okay, now I've sort of made it and I've got like a really nice bike, was a Mercian. So that was a kind of bike that made me kind of, I don't know, what I thought was like proper cycling, I guess. It was like a Mercian Audax bike. I mean, it was actually too big for me because I'm quite small and almost all bikes are too big for you if you're quite small. But yeah, I completely loved it. I still got it, actually. I keep meaning to sell it and I can't quite let go of it. So it's just the frame's just hanging up.
And are there any other makers that you really admire that sort of set benchmarks that you aspire to meet?
Yeah, so I really like what Field Cycles do. They're up in Sheffield. I think they started not long before I did, maybe a couple of years, but they were kind of from like arts backgrounds as well, and they make sort of really interesting looking bikes, and then they're kind of obviously like really high functioning. I really, one of my like, I guess, sort of bike heroes would be someone like Isla Roundtree, who started Isla Bikes. It's a bike company, but she was a frame builder, hand making bikes before she started Isla Bikes as well. So she was probably like one of the first, if not the first, female frame builder in the UK. And she's amazing. So I guess she's
one of my favorite bike smiths.
Yeah, mine too.
So let's assume that one of our viewers out there is thinking now you've done enough to tempt them into placing an order. If they were to order a bike from you today, when would they expect to receive it?
It really depends what they order. So if it's something that we've got stock of tubes for already, steel and titanium are quite quick at the moment, so we could probably do something in maybe, I don't know, 18 to 20 weeks. If it's stainless, it'd probably be a bit longer because we're running about at least 6 months on tubes at the moment for stainless. And then if it was a full build, anything from 6 months to a year probably, because just we're like the entire bike industry, we're kind of beholden to what we can get hold of in terms of components at the moment.
But if they wanted a movie prop, they could probably get it tomorrow, because by the sounds of it, they're nearly finished.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, it really depends what you order, I guess. So I think like realistically, probably 6 months is realistic for most things, but could be a bit quicker, could take a bit longer.
Right, speaking of quicker, we're ready to go. David,
what is your most favorite bike you've ever done and why? And please describe it.
I think actually the one behind might be the favorite bike that I've made. Well, I say I've made, it was a combination of all of us. So this was built for the MV Builders show, which last summer. It's titanium, it's all season, but it's set up as a like kind of like in a fast road format. It's got like MV everything, it's titanium, the custom paint I did in a sort of like a 24-hour non-stop stint the day before it had to ship to America, so it was quite a stressful build to get done, but and I had to stay up all night to finish it, but I was quite pleased with it.
The cacti make me slightly nervous puncture wise.
Yeah. Not the ideal bike plant.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to be flying out. They have their like their shop, the MV. Well, it's not really a shop. Their factory is in Utah. We were supposed to be going out and taking the bike with us, and then COVID happened, so we only got to ship the bike, which was a bit sad. But I think they were like trying to make us feel like we were there with the props.
Okay, next question. So out of all of your suppliers that you deal with, which are the ones that you most look forward to dealing with, and which are the ones you least look forward to dealing with?
I guess I really like dealing with Reynolds, the tubing maker, because I mean, like Reynolds, you think of as this enormous company, like completely global brand. But when you phone up, if you've got questions, you'll end up speaking to Keith, who's the managing director, on the phone. You're like, Keith, I've got a problem. What about this? Have you got anything that will, I really need this tube and it has to be like this long and the butts need to be this long and it's really awkward. I can't find anything. And he'll like go through this sort of like Rolodex in his head of all of the tube parts. And he'll be like, oh, I think I've got like a 7476 and that should fit the bill for you. So it's, so that's probably like my favorite company to deal with.
And who's at the other end of the spectrum?
God, can't name and shame.
What type of supplier? What sorts of parts?
Probably some of the components suppliers, like not like direct, but often like you're dealing with
Sales reps,
and then it's just like loads of hoops to jump through to get like something really small, and you're just like, come on, can I just have this one small thing? And you've got to like, I don't know.
Approximately how many bikes have you done?
So probably about 200, I guess, have been part of making.
Which was your which is the favorite that you've made for a customer? What's your favorite order been?
I really like making the small bikes because they're really challenging. So like some of the customers, probably the smallest ones have been like 4'11" maybe. And when you're making a bike that small, like every millimeter counts. So you're trying to get like the fit perfect for them, but you've still got to fit all of the components in, which don't change as much in size. So you're kind of like trying to squeeze all of these things in. They still want to carry water bottles because shorter people still drink water. And you're like, how do I fit, like physically trying to fit everything into the bike is really challenging. So they're probably my favorite ones to make because they're such a challenge.
Give me one thing that could improve cycling in the UK and perhaps for women specifically.
I think like more thought into the different types of people that ride bikes. I think the industry focuses on kind of like the mammal is sort of like the
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The whole industry like focuses on like sort of a middle-aged white man that's about 5'10", maybe 5'8" to 5'10", maybe 6 foot, and so everything like the size of everything is based on that, like the availability of everything is kind of based on that. So just because we have to use things that are available already, like if more thought was given to like smaller riders or different types of riders, I think that would be really good for like
Last one from me. You were saying before we went live that since you started building bikes, you almost never ride anymore. All your time is taken up with building. What do you most miss? What ride do you most miss?
I mean, it's probably the ride I most miss is probably more to do with COVID. Like that kind of like going like often in Europe, like not necessarily anywhere that's really far or hard to get to, but just going off, getting a flight somewhere and just going off on a kind of adventure, and like, you know, so like one of the favorite all-time rides that I did was the Torino-Nice rally, and that was just like insanely beautiful, like probably the hardest riding I've ever done. Like 2 days in, I was kind of regretting my life choices, and thinking I didn't know if I'd make it till the end. But like 5 days in, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. So yeah, that's probably like my favorite of all time ride. So to be able to sort of go away and do something like that again soon would be nice.
One more from you, David?
Yeah, just one more. How many bikes do you have? Do you have every kind of typology in your massive shed?
I don't. I'm actually quite I'm quite strict with myself. So I've got an all season, which is like the do everything kind of roadish / gravel bike. I've got a mountain bike, which is our goat. And that again, it's got most of our bikes have got ranges, so it's what they can do. So the mountain bike has got like, you can put shocks on it, and it's like quite a capable mountain bike, or a steel fork, and it's like a good off-road tourer. So that one, and then I've got a commuter, which is it's an old Hartley, and that's my commuting bike. So I've only got 3. It's sort of this very, very restrained, I think.
Well, the shops are open, so
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Okay, that's brilliant, Caren. And where can our viewers find you? How do they find you online?
So we're on Instagram, ISEN Workshop. We've got website isenworkshop.com. We're just Matt is off work today because he's working on our new website. So if you give us like about a week, we'll have a really jazzy, beautiful new website. Our old one's looking a bit tired, but you can also just email us at hello@isenworkshop.com if you've got questions. And just like start a conversation. So
fantastic, thanks, Caren. Let's hope some of our viewers do that soon. But Caren, in the meantime, thank you very much indeed for sparing your time on this. It's been a real pleasure to spend some time. And viewers, thank you for sparing half an hour to find out all about ISEN and Caren's work. And thanks to Club Peloton for bringing us all together in that way that they do so well. And to our Velocity partners for helping David and I on this great journey that we've got with Velocity. Next issue is out. It's at the printers now. It'll be out in a week. So if you aren't on our mailing list, email toby@velocitymagazine.co.uk and we'll get a copy and post to you in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, we're on our summer break now. So we'll be back in the autumn and look forward to seeing you there. Till the autumn. Be seeing you.
Seeing you.